The pregnancy test glowed positive in my trembling hands, a tiny window to my future that should have brought pure joy. Instead, my phone buzzed with another anonymous message. You don't deserve this baby. You'll never be good enough for this family. I'm Lila, and until 3 months ago, my life was beautifully ordinary. The local library where I worked had just promoted me to head of children's services. My husband Ryan and I had finally started trying for a baby. Even my mother-in-law Donna seemed to be easing up on her constant hints about grandchildren. Have you taken it yet? Ryan called through the bathroom door. Just give me a minute. I slipped the test into my pocket and deleted the message, adding it to the growing collection I hadn't told him about. The first one arrived the day after we announced we were trying for a baby. I opened the door to find Ryan's eager face. His blue eyes searched mine, hope radiating from every pore. Well? It's positive. I forced a smile, letting him sweep me into his arms. Over his shoulder, I caught my reflection in the mirror. Pale, strained, nothing like the glowing mother-to-be I should have been. Mom's going to flip, he laughed, already reaching for his phone. Wait. I grabbed his wrist. Can we just keep it between us for a while? His face fell slightly. She's been waiting for this forever, Lila. You know how important family is to her. That's exactly what worried me. Donna's version of family came with conditions, expectations, and judgment wrapped in sugary smiles. The messages started after our last dinner with her, where she'd cornered me in the kitchen. A mother's love is fierce, she'd said, arranging cookies on a plate with surgical precision. We do whatever it takes to protect our children. Remember that, dear. My phone buzzed again. Ryan was already calling his mother, his voice echoing through our small house. I checked the message. You think you can handle motherhood? Wait until everyone knows what you really are. Lila? Ryan's voice snapped me back. Mom wants to take us to dinner tonight to celebrate. I haven't even made a doctor's appointment yet, I protested weakly. She's already at that new French place downtown. Says she had a feeling today was special. He beamed, completely missing my discomfort. The restaurant was exactly Donna's style, all crystal chandeliers and starched tablecloths. She stood when we arrived, perfectly coiffed in her nurse's uniform. I just got off shift, she explained, hugging Ryan tight before turning to me. Lila, darling, you're looking tired. Working hard, I mumbled, sliding into my seat. Well, that will have to change now, won't it? Her smile didn't reach her eyes. A mother's first priority is her child. My phone buzzed in my purse. I ignored it. Have you thought about taking a break from the library? Donna continued. The first trimester is so delicate. All that dust and those germy children. Mom! Ryan warned, but she waved him off. I'm just concerned. After what happened with Ryan's sister, Donna! I cut in sharply. We never discussed Sarah's miscarriage. It was an unspoken rule. The waiter arrived with champagne. Just sparkling cider for the mother-to-be, Donna trilled, and I excused myself to the bathroom. 3 new messages waited. Ask her about Sarah. Ask her what really happened. Ask her what she did. I stared at my phone, ice creeping through my veins. Only family knew about Sarah. Only family knew what happened 15 years ago when Donna was still working as a labor and delivery nurse. When I returned to the table, Donna was showing Ryan baby pictures on her phone. You were such a perfect baby, she cooed. We'll have to make sure everything is just as perfect this time. Her eyes met mine, and in that moment, I knew. The messages, the threats, the timing, it all led back to her. My mother-in-law was declaring war, and my baby was the battlefield. I smiled back, my hand protectively covering my stomach. Game on, Donna. Game on. The first ultrasound photo sat between Ryan and me at breakfast like a loaded gun. 3 sets of copies, one for us, one for the doctor's office, and one Donna had already claimed as her right. She's redecorating the guest room, Ryan said, stirring his coffee. Says it'll make the perfect nursery when we visit. I gripped my fork tighter. We live 15 minutes away. Why would we need a nursery at her house? Mom just wants to be involved. He reached for my hand, but I pulled away to check my phone. Another message waited. Mothers know best. Always have, always will. The cafe next door chimed its morning bell. Through the window, I watched Mike arrange his sidewalk tables, his movements precise and practiced. He caught my eye and waved, concern creasing his weathered face. I'd been avoiding his usual morning chats lately, unsure how much my face might betray. I need to set some boundaries with your mother, I said carefully. Ryan's spoon clinked against his cup. What kind of boundaries? She called my supervisor yesterday, tried to convince her I needed medical leave immediately. The memory made my jaw clench. Said the library environment wasn't safe for her grandchild. She means well. She's suffocating me. The words exploded louder than intended. Outside, Mike glanced our way again. Ryan pushed back from the table. You're being dramatic. This pregnancy has you emotional. Don't. I stood up, my chair scraping the floor. Don't you dare dismiss this as hormones. Then what is it? Because lately you jump every time your phone buzzes. You barely sleep. You won't let Mom help with anything. Help? Is that what you call this? I thrust my phone at him, opening the message thread. His eyes scanned the screen, brow furrowing. These are all from unknown numbers. Could be anyone. Read the one about Sarah. His face went slack. How? Who would know about that? Think, Ryan. Who's been obsessing over this pregnancy? Who worked at the hospital when Sarah lost her baby? Who keeps talking about making everything perfect this time? You can't seriously think, my mother. The doorbell rang. We both froze. Surprise! Donna's voice carried through the house. I brought nursery paint samples. Ryan shot me a warning look before calling out, In the kitchen, Mom! She breezed in, arms full of color swatches and fabric samples. Her nurse's uniform was immaculate as always, but something wild danced behind her eyes. I was thinking soft greens, she said, spreading everything across our breakfast table. So much more soothing than traditional pink or blue. We want everything calm and peaceful this time, don't we? My phone buzzed. Without looking, I knew another message waited. Actually, I said, standing straighter, we're not making any nursery decisions yet. It's too early. Donna's smile tightened. Nonsense. The first trimester is crucial for planning. Everything needs to be perfect before... Before what? I challenged. Before something goes wrong? Lila, Ryan warned. No, I want to know. Before what, Donna? She gathered her samples with trembling hands. I only want what's best for my grandchild. Some people aren't natural mothers. They need guidance. Like Sarah needed guidance? The color drained from her face. Ryan grabbed my arm, but I shook him off. Get out, I said quietly, and stop sending me messages. Messages? She laughed, but it sounded hollow. I don't know what you're talking about. Ryan, sweetheart, I think the pregnancy is affecting her judgment. Perhaps she should see someone. I said get out! Donna stepped back, clutching her samples to her chest. Ryan, you can't let her continue like this. Remember what Dr. Stevens said about stress during pregnancy? About how it can lead to complications? My blood ran cold. Dr. Stevens was my new obstetrician. I hadn't told anyone his name yet. How did you... I started, but Donna was already heading for the door. Just think about the paint samples, dear, she called back. Green is so soothing, so safe. After she left, Ryan wouldn't meet my eyes. I'll talk to her, he mumbled. She'll back off. But we both knew better. My phone buzzed one final time. Green walls won't save you. Ask Sarah about the nursery she never got to use. Mike's cafe became my refuge when the library felt too exposed. He never asked questions, just slid herbal tea across the counter and kept his voice low enough that conversations stayed private. Today, my best friend Zoe sat across from me, scrolling through the messages on my phone, her face growing darker with each swipe. This is straight-up stalking, she said, pushing the phone back. You need to show these to the police. And tell them what? That my mother-in-law might be sending anonymous threats? I wrapped my hands around the warm mug. Ryan already thinks I'm paranoid. Speaking of Ryan, Mike appeared with fresh scones, his eyes darting to the window. Through the glass, I saw Ryan's mother approaching the cafe, still in her nurse's uniform. Back door, Mike muttered, already moving to intercept her. Zoe and I slipped through the kitchen just as the bell chimed. Donna's voice carried through the walls. Have you seen my daughter-in-law? She's missed 2 prenatal vitamins appointments I scheduled. In the alley, I leaned against the brick wall, pulse racing. She's tracking my medical appointments now. Time to see someone professional, Zoe insisted. I know a therapist. I don't need therapy. I need proof. My phone buzzed with a new message. Running away won't protect the baby. Remember what happened when Sarah tried to hide? What happened to Sarah? Zoe asked, reading over my shoulder. Ryan's sister. She lost her baby 15 years ago when Donna was still working as a labor nurse. Nobody talks about it. Mrs. Reynolds might know something, Zoe said. She volunteers at the hospital archives. An hour later, we sat in Mrs. Reynolds's cramped office, surrounded by filing cabinets. She adjusted her glasses, frowning at the computer screen. There was an investigation, she said finally. Internal review of the maternity ward. Several incidents of unauthorized interventions in high-risk pregnancies. What kind of interventions? Hark, or records are sealed. But one nurse was suspended pending review. She resigned before... Mrs. Reynolds stopped, squinting at the screen. That's odd. The files have been accessed recently, multiple times from the hospital's internal system. My phone buzzed again. Digging up the past? Careful where you step. Some graves should stay buried. I showed Mrs. Reynolds the message. Her face paled. Get out of here, now, and watch your back. That evening, I found Ryan in his home office, surrounded by old photo albums. Mom dropped these off, he said without looking up. Said we should learn from family history. I picked up a photo. Sarah, heavily pregnant, looking anxiously over her shoulder. Behind her, barely visible in the background, stood Donna, watching. She was 8 months along, Ryan said softly. Everything was fine until... Until what? Mom was on shift that night. Said Sarah was showing signs of distress. She made the call to induce early. Something went wrong. The baby... He closed the album. Mom never forgave herself. Or Sarah, I added. Where is she now? Nobody knows. She left town right after. Mom says the grief broke her. My phone lit up. Sarah knew too much. Don't make her mistakes. Ryan saw the message. This has to stop. I'm calling Mom. Don't! I grabbed his arm. Think about it. The messages started when we announced the pregnancy. They mentioned Sarah, your mother's shifts, my doctor's appointments. Who else could know all that? You're saying my mother drove her own daughter away? That she's threatening you now? He stood up, shaking his head. Listen to yourself. I did some digging. There was an investigation at the hospital before she resigned. Something about unauthorized interventions in pregnancies. Enough! He slammed his hand on the desk. You need help, Lila. Professional help. Mom's right. This stress isn't good for the baby. Your mother's right? Of course. She's always right, isn't she? Just like she was right about Sarah's baby? The silence that followed was deafening. Finally, Ryan picked up his keys. I'm staying at Mom's tonight. Call me when you're ready to get help. After he left, one final message arrived with an old newspaper clipping. Sarah's story, local woman questions hospital procedures in late-term loss. The article was incomplete, but one quote stood out. Someone deliberately interfered. They thought they knew what was best. I touched my stomach, feeling the first flutter of movement. It's okay, I whispered. I won't let history repeat itself. My phone buzzed. Too late. History always repeats. Ask Dr. Stevens about his new orders for your care. Dr. Stevens' office felt different today. The same bland walls, the same medical posters, but now I noticed the fresh flowers on his desk, identical to the ones Donna always kept in her kitchen. Your mother-in-law has expressed concerns, he said, reviewing my chart. Given your family's history of complications. What family history? I kept my voice steady. though my nails dug into my palms. I've never had complications. Ah, he shifted uncomfortably. I meant your husband's family, the incident with Sarah. Who told you about Sarah? Before he could answer, his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, then quickly turned it face down. I'm recommending bed rest, immediate medical leave from work. Just like Donna wanted, I left without taking his prescription, my phone already buzzing with a new message. Doctor's orders, for the baby's sake. Zoe was waiting in her car outside. Well? We need to move faster, I showed her the message. She's got the doctor in her pocket now. I might have something. Zoe pulled out her laptop. Remember that hospital investigation? I found Sarah. My heart stopped. Where? Portland. She's a social worker now, specializing in maternal trauma cases. Zoe turned the screen toward me, showing a professional headshot. Sarah's eyes held the same haunted look I'd seen in the old photo. She's giving a talk next week about medical abuse in pregnancy care. Book me a ticket. Already did. But Lila, Zoe hesitated. What if Ryan's right? What if we're seeing connections that aren't? My phone chimed with another message. This time, it was a photo of Sarah's speaking engagement poster, crossed out in red. Below it, history doesn't just repeat, it teaches lessons. I showed Zoe. Still think I'm imagining things? That night, I packed quietly while Ryan slept at his mother's. A soft knock at the door made me freeze. It's Mike, a voice whispered. I opened the door to find my neighbor looking grave. Donna was asking questions at the cafe today, about your schedule, your friends. She seemed different, agitated. Did she mention Sarah? No, but... He glanced over his shoulder. She was making calls about flight bookings to Portland. My phone lit up. Running to Big Sister won't save you, or the baby. I need a favor, I told Mike. If anyone asks, I'm taking a few days off for bed rest. Doctor's orders. He nodded, understanding. Be careful, Lila. Something's not right with that woman. Later, reviewing Sarah's social media, I found a pattern. Every few months, comments appeared from anonymous accounts. Remember what happens to mothers who don't listen. Some mistakes can't be fixed. Each post was followed by Sarah going offline for weeks. A new message arrived. Telling tales out of school? Tisk, tisk. Sarah learned the hard way about loyalty. I typed back for the first time. What did you do to her baby? The response came instantly. What any good mother would do, protected the family, like I'm protecting yours. My hands shook as I dialed Ryan's number. Straight to voicemail. I tried again. He's sleeping, Donna's voice answered. Dr. Stevens prescribed him something for the stress. Poor boy's worried sick about you. What did you give him? Just looking after my son, like I looked after Sarah, like I'll look after your baby. Stay away from my family. Oh, sweetheart. Her laugh sent chills down my spine. We are family. That's why I have to make sure everything's perfect this time. No mistakes, no disobedience, no running away. I ended the call and dialed Zoe. Change of plans, we leave tonight. What about Ryan? I touched my stomach, feeling the baby move. She's drugging him, like she probably drugged Sarah. I can't wait any longer. Lila, Zoe's voice dropped. Someone's watching your house. Black car, been there an hour. My phone buzzed one last time. Mothers know best. Always have, always will. Sweet dreams, dear daughter. I grabbed my bag, heading for the back door. It was time to find Sarah and end this, before Donna's version of perfect destroyed another family. The porch light flickered as I stepped out. In the shadows, a figure moved. Going somewhere? Donna asked softly. Without saying goodbye? The community center buzzed with excitement for the annual Pregnancy Wellness Fair. My display about children's literacy stood half-finished as I watched Donna work the room, her nurse's uniform pristine, her smile razor-sharp. She'd arranged this event, of course, the perfect stage for her performance. Everyone's so excited about your presentation, Zoe whispered, helping me arrange books. Are you sure about this? I touched the USB drive in my pocket containing Sarah's medical records. One PowerPoint slide was all it would take to expose Donna's past. It's time people knew the truth. Lila! Donna's voice carried across the room. Darling, you look flushed. Perhaps you should sit down. Before I could respond, Ryan appeared at my side. Mom's right. You don't look well. I'm fine. But the room did seem warmer, my vision slightly blurred. The water bottle Donna had insisted I drink sat half empty on the table. My phone buzzed. Mothers know when their children need rest. The text was from an unknown number, but the message next to it caught my eye. A notification that my presentation file had been altered 10 minutes ago. Ladies and gentlemen, Donna announced to the gathering crowd. Before my daughter-in-law's presentation, I have some concerns to share about maternal stress and its effects on pregnancy. I grabbed my laptop, but the screen swam before my eyes. The PowerPoint file opened to reveal not my carefully prepared exposé, but photos of me, following Dr. Stevens, digging through hospital records, meeting secretly with Zoe. The final slide showed my recent browser history, Sarah Morrison death records, pregnancy complications, suspicious deaths, how to prove medical malpractice. As you can see, Donna's voice seemed to echo. Sometimes the stress of pregnancy can lead to paranoid delusions, obsessive behavior, even dangerous accusations. The room spun. I clutched the podium as whispers rippled through the crowd. Ryan stared at the screen, his face pale. My own daughter, Sarah, suffered similar delusions, Donna continued, her voice thick with manufactured concern. She too made wild accusations. Tragic, how pregnancy hormones can affect the mind. Sarah's not dead, I managed to say, but my tongue felt heavy. She's in Portland. She knows what you did. Gasps from the audience. Ryan grabbed my arm. Lila, stop! You're not well! Ask her about the hospital investigation, I said louder, fighting the growing fog in my head. Ask her why she resigned. Ask her about the other mothers. Security? Donna called softly. I believe we need assistance. My daughter-in-law is having an episode. Through blurring vision, I saw Mike push through the crowd, his cafe apron still on. He'd seen the whole thing. He knew the truth. But when he reached me, his eyes were full of pity. Don't you see what she's doing? I pleaded to the shocked faces around me. She's trying to discredit me, like she did to Sarah, like she does to anyone who threatens her control. Shh, Ryan soothed, leading me away from the podium. We'll get you help. Mom knows a great facility. No! I wrenched away, stumbling. My phone clattered to the floor, screen lighting up with one final message. Perfect mothers know how to protect their children. From anything or anyone. The room tilted. As darkness crept in at the edges of my vision, I saw Donna approach with what looked like a medical bag. Her smile never wavered. Don't worry, dear, she whispered. I'll take care of everything, just like I always do. The last thing I heard was Ryan's voice, thick with worry. Mom, what was in that water bottle? Just something to help her rest, sweetheart. Trust, Mother. I know what's best. As consciousness faded, I realized my mistake. I'd tried to beat Donna at her own game, but she'd been playing a different one all along. This wasn't about exposing the truth. This was about making sure no one would ever believe it. The darkness took me, but not before I heard Donna's final words to the murmuring crowd. Sometimes the greatest act of love is protecting someone from themselves. Isn't that right, Sarah? Through the haze, I thought I saw a familiar face in the back of the room. A woman with haunted eyes, watching silently. Then nothing. The psychiatric facility's walls were the same shade of green Donna had chosen for the nursery. 3 days since the episode at the wellness fair, and already the world had shifted on its axis. I sat in the common room, watching other patients shuffle past in identical robes, wondering how many of them had also crossed paths with women like Donna. Your husband's here, the nurse announced. Not my nurse. Donna had made sure to get herself assigned to my case, but she was mysteriously absent today. Ryan looked exhausted, his suit wrinkled. The doctor says you're not taking your medication. Because I'm not sick. I kept my voice steady, remembering Dr. Emily's warning about appearing too emotional. Where's your mother? Called away for an emergency at her old hospital. He wouldn't meet my eyes. Something about old records being requested. My heart jumped. Sarah, it had to be. The woman I'd glimpsed at the fair wasn't a hallucination. Have you checked your phone? I asked carefully. Any strange messages? Mom took my phone, said I needed space to process. He rubbed his face. The things you said at the fair about Sarah. Mom finally told me everything. The delusions, the accusations, how she tried to hurt herself. That's not what happened. I leaned forward. Sarah's alive. She's in Portland. She's trying to expose what your mother did. Stop! Ryan stood up. Just stop. Please take the medication, for the baby's sake. After he left, I noticed a folded paper had fallen from his pocket. A hospital form, partially visible. Request for Guardian Ad Litem, Unborn Child Protection Act. My hands shook as I read. Donna was seeking legal guardianship of my unborn child. Quite a bind you're in. The voice came from behind me, an elderly patient I'd seen in group therapy. Reminds me of my daughter-in-law, always making wild claims about my parenting. Until the accident, of course. I turned slowly. The woman's smile was familiar. Her eyes held the same calculated warmth as Donna's. You're Helen Crawford, I whispered. The name from the hospital records. Another nurse who'd resigned during the investigation. Donna said you were clever. She sat beside me. We worked so well together, protecting mothers from themselves. Sometimes love requires intervention. My phone privileges had been revoked, but I'd memorized Zoe's number. At the patient phones, I dialed with trembling fingers. Zoe's away, Mike's voice answered. Left town suddenly. Something about a graphic design emergency in Portland. Relief flooded through me. She'd gone to find Sarah. Tell her, I started, but Helen appeared beside me. Time for group, she said pleasantly. We're discussing maternal instincts today. In group therapy, Helen led the session. Each story followed the same pattern. Difficult daughters-in-law, necessary interventions, tragic accidents. The other patients nodded sympathetically, but their eyes were vacant, medicated. Back in my room, I found a new message scratched into my bedside table. Sarah says hello. Better take your medicine. That night, Donna returned for her shift. She hummed as she prepared my injection. Sarah's quite upset about your accusations. Had to be sedated again. Such a shame. You found her. I always know where my children are. She smiled. Now this might pinch a bit. I backed away. The baby will be perfectly safe with me, just like you will be once you accept my help. Her voice hardened. Don't fight it, Lila. Look around. No one believes you. Even Ryan signed the guardianship papers. Why? Why do this? Because mothers know best. Always. She advanced with the needle. Sarah learned that. Helen's daughter-in-law learned that. And you will too. A commotion erupted in the hallway. Donna turned, annoyed at the interruption. Mrs. Stevens? A nurse called. Emergency call from Portland. Donna's face tightened. Give me 5 minutes to finish here. It's about Sarah. She's gone public. The needle clattered to the floor. For the first time, I saw real fear in Donna's eyes. But as she hurried out, she paused at the door. Mothers protect their children, Lila. Whatever it takes. Remember that when you wake up. I glanced at my water cup, understanding too late why it tasted bitter. As darkness crept in, I saw Helen enter the room, picking up the fallen needle. Sweet dreams, dear, she cooed. Don't worry, we'll take good care of both of you. The last thing I heard was Donna's voice down the hall. Find Sarah, now! The hospital chapel smelled of stale incense and secrets. Donna knelt in the front pew, her nurse's uniform replaced by a simple black dress. She didn't turn when I entered, though her shoulders tensed. Sarah's press conference starts in an hour, I said, my voice echoing off stone walls. Funny timing, you being here. Mothers always return to the scene of their greatest sacrifices. She remained facing the altar. Did you know I lost my first child here? 3rd trimester? The nurses were incompetent. Is that why you became one? To do better? To do what's necessary? She finally turned. How did you get out? Helen's not as careful as you. She talks in her sleep. I touched my stomach, still queasy from the drugs, especially about what happened to her daughter-in-law. A smile flickered across Donna's face. You've grown stronger. Good. The baby needs a strong mother. Like Sarah was strong? Sarah was weak. She wouldn't listen, wouldn't understand that sometimes love means making impossible choices. Donna stood, smoothing her dress. But you're different. You fight back, like I did. Through the stained glass, red light painted her face like blood. My phone buzzed, Zoe's signal that Sarah was ready. Tell me about your first baby, I said softly. The one you lost. Something cracked in Donna's expression. The nurses, they said I was too controlling, that my anxiety was hurting the baby. They sedated me. When I woke up, her hands clenched. I promised myself no mother would ever feel that helpless again. So you became the one in control, deciding which mothers were worthy, which babies needed protection. I stepped closer. How many, Donna? How many families did you destroy? I saved them! Her composure shattered. Weak mothers make weak children. Sarah didn't understand that. She would have ruined my grandchild with her softness, just like you would ruin yours. Sarah's baby didn't die, did it? The truth hit like lightning. You took it. Donna's laugh was hollow. Adopted, officially. A lovely couple in Portland. Sarah was declared unfit. Postpartum psychosis, they called it. The same diagnosis you have, dear. My phone buzzed again. In 15 minutes, Sarah would tell her story to the world. But there was one piece missing. Where are the records? I asked. The real ones, not the falsified versions. Safe. Unlike you. She reached into her purse. I had such hopes, Lila. We could have been perfect together, but you're just like Sarah, too stubborn to accept help. The syringe caught the red light. The baby will be better off without your influence. Ryan understands that now. Does he understand this? I held up my phone, playing the recording of her confession. Or should I forward it to the press first? Her hand trembled. You wouldn't dare. Try me. I touched my stomach again. I learned from the best, after all. Mothers do whatever it takes, right? She lunged with the syringe. I sidestepped, letting her momentum carry her past me. She stumbled, catching herself on the altar. It's over, Donna. Sarah's alive. Her baby's alive. And everyone's about to know what you did. No. She straightened, something feral in her eyes. No one will believe you. You're just another unstable mother, like Sarah, like all the others. Except I'm not alone. The chapel doors opened. Ryan stood there, his face ashen, holding his phone. Behind him, Helen waited in handcuffs, flanked by police. Mom! Ryan's voice cracked. What did you do to Sarah? Donna's mask crumbled completely. I protected our family. Everything I did was for... Save it for the press conference, I cut in. Sarah's waiting to reunite with her child. Your perfect family is about to get very public. As they led her away, Donna turned back one last time. You'll understand someday, she whispered. When the baby comes. Sometimes love looks like madness. I watched her disappear into the red light, one hand on my stomach, the other holding Ryan's trembling fingers. I already understand, I murmured. Love looks like truth. The courtroom emptied slowly, leaving behind the hollow echo of justice served. 15 years of Donna's crimes laid bare, each victim's story more haunting than the last. Sarah sat 2 rows behind me, clutching her teenage son's hand, a boy with Ryan's eyes and her quiet strength. Mike appeared with coffee from his cafe. Thought you might need this. Thanks. I watched Ryan lingering by the prosecutor's table, shuffling papers that didn't need shuffling. Did you read it? The letter? Yeah. He settled beside me. Donna always did have perfect handwriting. The envelope had arrived this morning, just before sentencing. Inside, a single page held more truth than months of testimony. Perfect mothers don't exist. I see that now. We're all just echoes of our own wounds, trying not to pass them down. Take care of our grandchild, Lila. Love them better than I knew how. She's being transferred tonight, Ryan said, finally joining us. His tie hung loose, defeat etched in every line of his face. Mom asked to see the baby first. No. The word came automatically, my hand covering my stomach. Just once. Before what? Before she finds another way to control us? The baby kicked, as if in agreement. Some wounds don't deserve second chances. Sarah approached, her son hovering protectively nearby. She wants to see my Jack, too. Says she needs closure. What did you tell her? That closure isn't always a gift we give others. Sarah's smile held years of hard-won wisdom. Sometimes it's a door we close ourselves. Through the courthouse windows, reporters gathered on the steps, hungry for the story of the nurse who stole babies in the name of perfect motherhood. Helen had already pleaded guilty, trading testimony for a lighter sentence. 3 more former nurses had come forward, confessing to similar crimes at other hospitals. I should feel something more, Ryan said quietly. Anger, relief, something. You feel what you feel, I replied, remembering Dr. Emily's words about healing. That's enough. My phone buzzed, not with threatening messages now, but with updates from the survivors group Sarah had started. Women sharing stories, breaking silences, reclaiming their power one truth at a time. Ready? Zoe waited by the door, camera in hand. The documentary was her idea, a record of recovery, not revenge. Almost. I turned to Ryan. Your mother's letter. She wrote something else. About her first baby. He stiffened. What? There was no baby. The pregnancy was a lie she told herself so long. It became her truth. Everything else, Sarah, the other mothers, me, it all stemmed from that first deception. How can you be sure? Because perfect mothers don't exist, I echoed Donna's words. But perfect lies do. Outside, Sarah hugged her son close, whispering something that made him smile. 15 years of separation hadn't broken their bond. It had transformed it into something stronger, more resilient. I've been thinking about names, Ryan said suddenly. For the baby. Not Sarah, I said quickly. Or Donna. No. He took my hand. Something new. Something that's just ours. The baby kicked again as we descended the courthouse steps. Reporters called out questions. Cameras flashed, but their voices seemed distant, unimportant. In my pocket, Donna's letter crinkled, her last attempt at controlling the narrative. But our story wasn't hers to write anymore. It belonged to Sarah's quiet strength, to Ryan's painful growth, to the child growing beneath my heart, who would never know the weight of perfect expectations. One last thing, I told the others. Taking out the letter, I ripped it slowly, deliberately, letting the pieces scatter like confetti on the courthouse steps. Sarah nodded, understanding. Her son squeezed her hand. Some mothers protect, I said, watching the paper fragments dance away. Others control. The trick is knowing the difference. The setting sun painted the courthouse gold, transforming the scene into something almost beautiful. Not perfect, never perfect, but real. And in the end, that was the greatest victory of all.